It's going to fall for Ibrahimovic. Oh, come on! David Beckham. Oh, goodness me!
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Clash of Cosmos. This is episode 4. I am once again doing this in post-op because Riverside just doesn't want to seem to cooperate. But Mila's back with us. That's pretty much the only thing that gets cut off in the intro here. So throw it back to myself here as we introduce the squad. And Andrew's back with us again. No Dari today. He's getting tatted, so he can enjoy this one from his couch tomorrow. So the Galaxy had a mixed bag since our last recording, getting, pummeled 3-0 at the weekend in the MLS to St. Louis, and then midweek having a 4-1 smashing of Herediano to advance to the quarters. Really strange and weird times with this Galaxy team, but they finally got that first win of 2025. To wrap up this episode, we'll talk about the game against Portland on Sunday. But, let's just jump into it. Let's start with the MLS. Start with that first game. 3-0. Andrew, you were there, so why don't you take it away?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about as we were watching that game, that first half, it felt good. It felt like, again, the Galaxy have had this trend of improving, it feels like, at the beginning of games. Each 45 minutes has looked better than the previous 45 minutes, and it was the same story there. First MLS starts for Parente and Harbor Miller, which is, I'm sure, was exciting for them, and they looked the level. They really seemed to contribute. I felt like they kind of turned it around. Greg Vanny, after the game, mentioned that Parente was probably the best midfield partner for Edwin Cerrillo that we've seen so far, and I think it showed in the play. Those first couple of games against San Diego, against Vancouver, even that first second against Herediano, we just looked a little bit clueless, lacking a lot of dynamism, a lot of energy. Just things weren't coming together. But then Parente comes in against St. Louis, and suddenly there's a spark. Things look a lot different. Harbor Miller on that right-hand side in that Mickey Amane spot, doing another really, really good job. 17 years old, but he didn't really look like it to me. I thought they both really, really impressed me. And up until yesterday's game, that was the best 45 minutes I think we had seen from the Galaxy. Well, I guess maybe 44 minutes, because then there's that big blunder, obviously, right at the half. And from there, it's just tough to get back. But I mean, I felt like there were positive things to take away from that game. The scoreline, I'm not going to say it was unfair, like we deserved it. We put ourselves in that spot, but I felt that it didn't necessarily reflect our play. I thought that we played well. And when you're struggling as much as we are, you take anything you can. And so those improvements, they're massive. And I think we really built upon them yesterday. But yeah, that game against St. Louis, good play, I thought overall. Just really dumb mistakes in the back that ended up costing them on the day.
I think that's a perfect way to put it. It seemed like we kind of got the flow of things going in that game, and what it really was just a lack of finishing the final third chances and just converting. And then, like you said, the mistakes, the Mikovic mistake, it's been remedied by taking him out the lineup. I don't know. I think that's just got to be a mental thing. When we're playing good, it looks like we're actually going to be able to produce a result, and then you have a mistake like that, heads get down in any level of the sport. So I want to just attribute it to that. Hopefully we see a whole different result in the Portland game. But like you said, there was some good things to see, and I'm hoping we build off those.
Yeah, finally got our first good Royce performance in a while. It didn't last, I'm surprised that he played 80 minutes. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, Taylor Tellerman on the broadcast was talking the whole time about how he saw Royce before the game and his leg was taped up from knee to essentially groin. And so the fact that he went as long as he did and then he rested midweek, maybe that's kind of where Vanny's head's at with Royce in terms of like, maybe we'll just try to rely on him as much as possible in these MLS matches while we can until we get healthy, and then we'll start to rotate him back into that super sub position. I'm on the same page as you guys. Like, best performance we've had this year up until obviously yesterday, but it still resulted in a 3-0 loss. I mean, we're the first MLS Cup champions to lose their first 3 matches. That's it's not a record that you want to be setting there. It's a tough one to swallow, and the standards are super high because this team, regardless of injuries or not, is still that's what we're expecting is to be competing at the highest level every single match. Roman Berkey is by far the best keeper in the league.
So good.
Yeah.
He's so good. And that's been the case for a while now, but it showed the levels between him and Mitrovic the entire match, right? Like safe hands the whole time, making big saves. And then he's young. We've got young players on this team. And like you guys are saying, like one mistake and it's like, oh shit. Everyone kind of turns. We're going to continue to discuss this goalkeeper controversy of sorts because where John McCarthy's at. I will give John his extra props because he taught Sketch how to play in goal and he won a man of the match last weekend as well. So that's important. It almost feels like a wash because of what happened yesterday. But there are definitely exciting bits to some of these younger players. Like you were saying, Parente has looked phenomenal. Phenomenal. There's some form of like, let's let the youth just ride this out. Like that's what they're here for. Let's continue to use them and abuse them to a greater or lesser extent until we get healthy.
And it's so early too in the season. Like obviously this is not the start we wanted. No one wants to see this. We got 1 goal to 7 scored on us, but I don't think they're going to keep us out of the net for that long. Once we do start scoring, Ramirez got his goal yesterday. So some of these guys are going to start getting their feet under them, find their shooting boots. We're going to get people back, and I think we'll be in a good spot as long as we keep our heads up. The only thing that I could see hindering us is a mentality thing.
Yeah, there's definitely been a drop-off since the start of the season. So hopefully that this win can kind of foster some positivity amongst all of these guys. I am concerned with one player in particular, and he's kind of been the odd man out. And that's Fagundes. I've continued to, even last night, like I'm still struggling to see, I don't know if value is the right word, but impact might be the word I'm looking for. Like it just feels like he's a bystander in a lot of possession, and maybe you guys are seeing it a little differently. I just can't.
I think it's just the jump from a pencil in that position who is so output heavy for us, and he creates chances. Whereas we usually take in Fagundes when we're up in games last year. I feel like towards the end of the games he'd come in to shore it up, nothing too crazy. And he wouldn't do anything crazy offensively, obviously. That's what I feel like his role's always been for us. Andrew, what were you going to say?
No, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but just wanted to piggyback. I definitely agree with that. To me, he's felt like a role player. That's kind of what we signed him for. He's a veteran. He knows the league. He knows his job. He knows multiple positions on that left side, even on the middle, up top. So he's a player that you put in and you know he's not going to make mistakes. I do agree that, especially in the first couple of matches, we probably needed him to step up a little bit more to deliver, to bring sort of more of that effectiveness that you're mentioning, Dylan. But that just doesn't seem like his role. To me, peak Fagundes is what we saw last night, where he's combining really well with John Nelson and Julian Alde on that left side. That left side looked really good, especially I thought those first 30 minutes of yesterday's game. He was just making things happen, being open, putting that pass, either a through ball in for Aude, for someone to run onto, or getting it towards the middle, circulating possession, just making sure that we are doing what we need to do. And that feels like what his role is. Vanny has him as like a glue guy, someone who just connects things. Maybe he's not going to always score for you, but he's just not going to make too many mistakes either. Is it what we've needed when we have so many other big contributors out? Probably not. But now that we're seeing, some more output, some goals come in, some assists come in from other players. Isaiah Parente last night getting 2 assists was really big. Harbor Miller getting his first assist. Really interesting stat there. I think youngest player to get a Concacaf Champions Cup assist since Alphonso Davies in 2017. So, I mean, in my piece yesterday, I called it a yeah. I mean, it feels like some really positive foreshadowing, but Yeah, I called it a youthful revolution. We had these young guys who are starting to step up, and Diego Fagundes obviously isn't that anymore, but he's not gonna, I think, necessarily hold the team back, but maybe not push us forward as much as we might like. But
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not mad at it. I think that's what he was signed for, and
Yeah.
he's accomplishing that role.
I think he definitely can find a role in this team. I almost see him kind of like Grealish in a way, whereas he's going to hold up the ball and that he's not going to really take on his man too much and do anything to produce that assist that GNA. But if we put him with an out A, someone who's going to overlap heavy and just be an option for him, then he can play fine. I don't think we'll see any phenomenal performances, but he can definitely stay in the team if he works with the left back.
It's a great analogy, I think.
Yeah. No, you know what? This is a perfect place to go into last night's game because there were two major subs that came in and swapped out that I thought made Fagundes look a little better, and that was Julian Aude and Lepli. I've been curious to see when he was going to get his minutes. I didn't think it was going to be in the Concacaf Champions Cup as his first minutes of the year, really. But those two guys, along with Parente, really changed that match for me. You guys can go. I mean, Andrew, you were there again, so I want you to kind of give us your overarching thoughts, and then we can kind of go into more of the tactical tweaks and adjustments there.
Yeah, I mean, Lepley, really great kid. He had his dad at the game, his old UCLA roommate at the game with them. So I'm sure he had a little bit of extra motivation to go ahead and show out. But I got to I didn't speak with him, but I got to listen to his presser after the game. And he mentioned that he has this mentality where he's just always going to stay ready whenever he's going to get called up upon. It hasn't been too much in his career so far, his Galaxy career. I was looking at FB Ref, and I think that was his second start ever for the LA Galaxy.
Wow.
But I mean, he really made the most of it, setting up that first goal and really just creating a lot of dynamism, energy through that midfield, getting the ball forward, and again, just making things happen. He combined really well with Diego Fagundes as well there. No, it's just another exciting prospect, and to think that these are players who haven't necessarily have had the chance to play, because normally we have these massive names like Ricky Puig, Diego Fagundes, all of those guys keeping them out, which is what we want, obviously. But when we have so much talent, it's so great to see it in fruition, and it's just hats off to them for stepping up whenever they are called upon. It isn't easy necessarily being a bench guy, a role guy coming in every now and then, but that's what you have to do in this league, in this game. It's like Tucker Lepley mentioned, it's just stay ready, be ready. And I mean, boy, was he ready. He really showed it. So really happy for him. He's been putting in a lot of quiet work, we can say maybe, but he got to be a little bit loud last night, and really satisfying, I'm sure, for him.
Yeah, they looked phenomenal. I think the word that I want to use is balanced. That was the most balanced we've looked all season.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like, here's Gabriel Peck trying to jam it down your throat for 90 minutes. And not to say that he can't do that, because he's already proven that he can. But when he can attack in space and not have to have double and triple coverage all night, we're starting to see the Gabriel Peck that we saw all of last year, where it was like, oh, this guy could be an MVP. I thought Aude was special. I think he's, whether it's in a 4-back or a 5-back, I think until we get healthy, he has to start just from the simple fact if he provides the width on the left. We've been saying it for a couple episodes now. He's, I mean, really special technical talent. He might not be the best defender, but he's very well drilled, and I think Vanny, he feels like a Vanny left back to me, and I thought him and Lepley really controlled the left side. I thought it allowed Fagundes to drop a little deeper, like you said, be that connector. Man, I thought, oh, I'm so giddy about Lepley because it's just such a good story. Like, UCLA kid, he's been working so hard. Like you said, he's just been ready, and he's finally given the opportunity, and he shines at the highest level of CONCACAF tournaments. Like, that's fucking awesome. Yeah, super special moment for him and his family. Same with Miller, and that's got to feel so good. And that's what we needed this whole 4 or 5 game stretch, was at least a feel good moment, and at least we got it on
spark too.
Wednesday. Yeah.
I got questions because I didn't get to watch a single thing of this game. We talked about the Parente Cerrillo partnership. a little bit in the St. Louis review.
Mhm.
From the stats, it looks like Parente's doing the down dirty, get stuck in defensive work, winning the duels and all that, and it looks like Cerrillo's doing more of the recovery in space defensive stuff. Is that right to assume?
Y-
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, if you're talking like 6'8" stereotypical stuff, then
Yeah.
yeah, Surreal's been like that 6 who's kind of been your destroyer, and then he's getting the ball. Like we were talking about it with Ricky, like getting the ball to Ricky. It's been getting the ball to Parente straight after
Mhm.
a tackle. Yeah,
Interesting. Okay. I mean, just based off the stats, Parente had like 13 duels.
I think over both of these legs, he had like 200 and something combined passes, like total
Nice.
passes.
Okay, so he's doing it all. I mean, he
Yeah,
had the 2 assists. That's good. I want to see more of that. I haven't seen much of him in person. A lot of what I know from him is just from Football Manager, and he was good to me there. So the more he can do for us in real life, the better.
yeah, he's a younger guy, but it's still
Yeah, he's
he's
only
still
like 25.
24. So I
24,
mean, like
25, yeah.
he's at least a little more experienced in terms of like you're throwing out a Miller, right? But like
Mm-hmm.
he looked really good.
And the other thing was how was the Yoshida Zerka pairing? That's old, but if it gets it
Yeah,
done, it gets it done. But yeah, I want to hear from you guys.
definitely. We got to talk with Vanny after the game, and someone had asked about that, and Vanny seemed really impressed. What he thought that Zonka added to the game is he's obviously not as quick as Garces or someone like that, but
Mm-hmm.
professional. Like he seemed a lot more maybe confident than he did in his cameo in Vancouver. And what he added is just some confidence on the ball, so some willingness to step forward, to drive into that midfield. And Benny mentioned that one of the things we've been missing is someone to take the offensive load off of Gabriel Peck and maybe distract those defenders a little bit. And with Zonka stepping up from the back line, it made Herediano's defenders sort of think a little bit, even when we were in possession, in deep possession, rather than just, waiting for the ball to circulate and eventually get to Peck and then they can pounce on him. They thought, oh, shoot, that guy has the ball. We got to react, do something, make a judgment call. And it just forced more space to open up for our midfielders, for Parente, for people like Miller and Ale to run into. It just he felt like he was a good part of that system. I feel like what we're all going at is that the pieces that make Ball work are finally falling into place. When you're missing one or two of them, the system falls apart. But we're finding players that are stepping up and really making those things work for everybody else. It's just this really amazing, intricate ecosystem. And it's so good to see when it's ticking. So I think Zonka was a big part of that. Just a willingness to hold on to the ball, step forward a little bit, and make the defenders think.
All right, nice. Can't wait to see that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I just didn't. I don't have enough of an opinion on it because Herediano wasn't super threatening. That was the most wire to wire kind of play that we've had all season, right? Like first win, but it felt like we were in control the whole time.
Mhm.
I think you're right though. There is a level of like just experience level. Like, hey, like let's in this moment, let's calm it down. Let's take a step. Let's take a
IQ.
beat. Yeah,
I feel like that's gotta be the one glaring thing with Garces is his game IQ. And Dylan and I were talking about it before you joined the thing, but that little interaction with Yoshida, or not, Yoshida
yeah.
in the St. Louis game. I've never seen Yoshida that mad, and he's been our captain for a while. There's been some times where he gets pretty mad, but that was pure anger from him. And I think
Mhm.
that just summarizes Garces for you. He's wild. There's going to be moments
Yeah.
like this. He's a little inconsistent because of how wild he is, but we need his pace, his physicality, and sometimes just for him to say, fuck it, I'm going to jump 5 feet in there through the air, try to win this.
Yeah, he's explosive and he
Yeah.
covers up for Zonk, or if Zonka's playing next time or Yoshida, just because of his pace and like you can't beat that guy over the top. There's so many times, especially when we've been trailing, where you're like, holy shit, ball over the top, like that should be the end of the game here. They're about to hit us on the counter, and then he's coming out of nowhere.
Right.
It's very Rudiger-esque. No, I'm not saying that he's
Yeah.
the level of Rudiger,
Yeah.
but it's
He'd
very
probably be the best center
Rudiger-esque.
back in the league if he could dribble up the field like Rudiger.
Right. Well, I mean, and that was the thing in this match. He did that at right back,
At right
but
back,
he
it's
did that.
different.
Right.
There's less implications if he fucks up on that dribble.
Right. It's the thing that continues to brew for me that the five back might potentially be something that we can work in and have a different style is the idea that
Come on, Vanny.
I did these three. I think if you were going to point out a spot where you're like, this is probably the strongest unit we have right now, it's definitely that. Like three center backs. You can even go further out to the wing backs as well. That's like our strongest groups. Our defense is our strongest, even though we have conceded a ton of goals. It's probably our strongest group.
I think just to add a little bit of like credence to that five at the back theory. This was after the game at St. Louis, but Greg Vanny was super impressed with Harbor Miller and how he did in that right back position. And something I thought that was super interesting, he said, is that Harbor Miller looks like he could be, a good option in that right back spot. And as soon as Yamane gets back, maybe keep Miller or keep Quivas back there and have Yamane do something a little bit more attacking, use a little bit more of those qualities. And that to me sounds like a five back, have maybe Miller as that third center back and then let Yamane just, terrorize those wings, do his thing, be essentially a midfielder. I think of something similar to like an Alexander-Arnold, getting up into that midfield, whipping a great diagonal pass. We've seen it a lot last season. Some really, really beautiful switches that, create attacks, some fantastic assists. So you think maybe Vanny, like he's starting to think about that a little bit more. He did mention that's early. It's only been 2 games, but now the sample size is 3 games and it's still looking really good. So I'm excited for when Yamane does come back. Maybe we do see something sort of similar to that. Because, I mean, again, that would be exciting as well. Even more threats. And you put on top of that, Painto coming back on that same wing. Ricky Puig helping them do some stuff as well. It's just, ooh, it gets really, really fun to think about. So that's exciting. And we're not seeing it just yet. I don't know if Vanny's going to be ready for it in a little bit. But, I mean, he said pretty much as much as that. So Vanny, I think, he's considering it. That's exciting.
Yeah, we've seen Yamane play in that basically center attacking mid role in the half spaces when he is at right back. I don't think there's any reason that he can't do that either as a wide center back like Dylan was alluding to a little earlier, or just maybe even throw him in the midfield and just see if it works. I think that's less likely, but you never know.
I love it. We are becoming right back SC. I mean, between Yamane, Miller, and Cuevas. I mean, Cuevas was awesome going forward. He's like, if we were going to stick someone as a right,
we've been right back FC for a while.
Right. Caligari and Araujo. Like, it's just like that's what we do. You want a right back? I got you.
How about 3?
I would love it. I'd love it. I think that's the way to go. Obviously it's hard to tell what you do with the plethora of like kind of midfield offensive talent that we got, especially with Lepley, who just played great, and you got Fagundes and Royce and Parente. Like, if you're going to put another right back out there, obviously that fucks with those numbers. But I think that's something I am totally willing to sacrifice, especially if that puts Fagundes or Royce more in that super sub role. But like I said, that was a mixed bag of results. You go from like an extreme low, 4 straight, and then 3 straight in the MLS, and then you go from a 4-1. So it's like, where are we supposed to be as fans, right? Like, you've advanced in a tournament, but you've also been locked down to like the lowest of the low So where do we go from here? Literally bottom of the league. I will say that the teams that we have played have all been at the very top of the league. So
that's true.
Maybe we were just playing really good opponents. Maybe. St. Louis haven't conceded a goal this year, so.
But they also didn't score a goal this year up until they played us.
Touche.
Yeah, Jesus.
They didn't really look like they were going to, though. It feels like that one especially, but even the other 2, they were gifts. So if it's coming down to mistakes, then, I mean, those things, they can happen, but they could also not happen if we're doing the right stuff. So, again, it's not too worrying. 3-0, it's a tough scoreline to look at, but when you look at the play again, it doesn't concern me too much. And I don't know. I think the real test of where we are, we're going to see it away in Portland. Traveling the MLS is never easy, but Portland are another team struggling. They're 1-2, I want to say,
Yeah,
just a
one and
little bit
two.
above us. They've scored one more goal than us. They've conceded one less goal than us in league play, but that doesn't account for the 4 we just scored yesterday. So we look at two struggling sides, one with having a really positive result, showing some signs of growth, another team maybe not showing as much signs of growth. So I feel a little bit, positive about it. If we keep this win on our sails, then I think, maybe who's to say we can't get that first MLS win. And if we keep doing what we did against Herediano, maybe you could argue it's going to be tougher competition, but I'm not too sure. Again, it's another struggling side versus the Costa Rican champions. I think there's, stuff for us to make something happen. I don't think Parente or Miller are suddenly going to drop off and, not show up. Especially the way they've been playing, they've looked fantastic, and I would anticipate that again. And I felt like they were huge. And if Flapley can come in, it's just there's so much dynamism that they bring, so much. They've just transformed this team. I don't think that we're the same side that lost against San Diego, that lost against Vancouver. I think we're playing a lot different, and so I don't know. I'm expecting them to play another 45 minutes that after we're going to be talking about that was the best 45 minutes, the best performance we've seen. It just feels like that the ball is going to keep on rolling, but we'll have to see.
We will. But yeah, I mean, going up to Portland is no easy task for any team at any juncture, whether or not they're good or bad. The turf mixed in with potential rain and just their fans. Like Portland's one of the best atmospheres in this league. And I want to say that I'm also feeling more confident. I definitely feel better about this. I feel like we will come away with a result that does favor us. I don't know what Portland is doing. Obviously you lose Evander this offseason, so you lose a potential MLS, MVP candidate. You bring in another young guy who's obviously it's been tough for him because first game Portland gets a red card. So what are you supposed to expect? And then they're really poor. They're just a poor side, and they're not managed well. Neville hasn't had a great run with them, and I don't really know how he still got a job.
He was there.
I genuinely am not sure how he still has a job because Portland is they're not a big market, but they're a big MLS franchise. Like that's been a staple of the MLS for so long that
Established, yeah.
Yeah, for them to be this underperforming they've got talent. It's not like they don't have talent on that roster. It's very hit or miss. They're very hit or miss. I know that they're lining up I think they've been lining up in a 3/5 back this season. And Da Costa is the new guy, and he's been out left, I think. Everything they try to go through him. That's their main focal point. I think as long as you play like we played on Wednesday, you win this game pretty easily. The question is, do we just randomly got healthy, right? Like, or is that kind of where we're at? Like you rested Royce, so he's back most likely. And then Yamane is well rested and was supposed to be good to go for this weekend. And then now you've got the new kid, Nascimento, who's also healthy.
Oh, I can't wait.
So the question now is like, we've just got all these players back and we just had our best performance. So what happens now? Where do you go from here if you're Vanny? Do you go back to what you were originally planning at the start of the year, or do you mix in a little bit, or I don't even know. Where do you guys think we go with this?
I don't think Nascimento is going to play much. Granted that Ramirez did just get his first goal. Miguel Berry got a goal. It'd be hard to give the guy that just came back from injury any minutes over them. I do want to see him, though. I think he'd be a different vibe up top than the two of those guys.
I'm curious if we talked about it in the last pod, but either Ramirez or Nascimento, if you throw them in that left, I think it's more of a cam at this point. It's not a left wing. If that's where you're going to see that.
Fagundes, isn't it? Yes.
Right. So, but even Ramirez, like, I think at Columbus, he played more of it was like an outside target man, which is really weird. Wilfred Nancy is just a great manager. But I'm curious because Vanny has been very insistent on the idea that Ramirez is a striker. He's going to play 9 for us. Like,
Mhm.
are we going to see that bend? Are we going to see that break? Like, is he going to continue to, nail that down? It's tough.
I think he's got to play there. I haven't seen much from him, but from what I have seen, it just seems like he is the type of guy that's going to be in the right spots, and if we have good service, he will get goals.
Fair.
I think it took some time for him to finally get that first one, but I'm hoping that after the first one, it's going to continue from there. He's been getting in pretty good positions, and I know we talked about it in the group chat a couple days ago, but we were like, that's one of the first good services he's got, like, in the entire season.
I think that was his second shot ever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like
1 for 2 is not too
it's
bad.
so
That's-
hard. We
no, that
don't
isn't too
even
bad.
know what we're working with, and I think that's the hard part for this
Mhm.
season. Is a lot of this is still, it's new to us. It's new to Vanny too. Nascimento, he's obviously seen him in training and stuff. We haven't seen him at all. All I've seen is that 3-minute highlight video on YouTube,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it got me excited. But I don't know if I could say that he could play left wing or like left inside, just based off that.
It's fair.
That's where Vandy comes into play, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. To go back to what I feel like the original question was, is like, what do we change for Portland? It's super interesting. I'm really of the belief that if it's not broke, you don't want to fix it. We found a good groove with this group that just played in the past couple of games. So I feel like you want to build upon that. But I mean, Mickey Amane, I don't think I want him out of my side. It's tough for Harbor Miller, but bring him on, let maybe Miller come on as a sub, do something else. But I mean, Yamane, he's going to be a plus. He's going to be a positive. I think the biggest change, and this is probably going to open up a nice conversation here, is that we're probably going to see Mikovic in net again. And maybe what do we expect from that? I mentioned last time we talked about him that I do trust in him. I feel like he's just been the victim of, like, he's a scapegoat at this point. He's made now 2 really big costly mistakes, but I mean, in that stretch where we were losing, I don't think there were too many players not maybe making mistakes and stuff. But it's just when you're the goalkeeper, you're always gonna suffer the brunt of it. And I don't know, but at the same time, like, I think all the criticism of him is valid. But as a goalkeeper, someone who's played in that position, I feel like both of the big horror blunders weren't necessarily 100% his fault. We talk about that first one against San Diego. I even go back to, before he even got the ball. I feel like I've mentioned this, but Cerrillo could have probably passed out and avoided that situation. And when he does it's a bad pass, I will say. I don't think he should have made that pass to Garces, but how can you expect your player just to slip like that, to take an awful touch and fall over? You don't expect that from a professional. So I don't put it 100% on him. Dropping the ball in St. Louis, when I was in the stadium and I watched it, I thought it was awful. Like, how can you do that? But then I watched the clip and I hear that he actually does go out and yell keeper, try to claim it. But Maya's already in the air. They collide. But if you get bumped into by your center back as a goalie, there's not too much you can do when you're already in the air either. So, again, it's just 2 obviously poor mistakes. They cost goals. They were costly. They killed momentum. But I don't feel 100% confident in blaming him. So,
I don't know if
they were bad, but
yeah, I do think the way I think about it is we just won the cup with McCarthy, and Mikovic is not showing me anything different from McCarthy, who just like we got to give him some respect. We just won with him. If there's not much of an improvement, it doesn't make sense for me to make that change. Some of the things that we had an issue with McCarthy last year was coming out to claim crosses, corners. That Mikovic mistake is, like you're saying, it might not be his fault, but it's the exact same thing that we were complaining about last year. McCarthy, he'd probably just fucking boot the ball up the pitch. He probably wouldn't even think about passing it to Garces, who I'm not even comfortable with passing a good pass to Garces. So I do see what you're saying, and I totally understand it. I just think it's very hard to take the guy that's already established in that position, that's won something with us, and to not have a significant improvement in that position.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm not here or there about who's in net. I would prefer McCarthy. If I was to pick my side, I'd pick McCarthy. But like that's not the end all be all for me. The reason I go with McCarthy is we have no players that improve our margin for error. Like Ricky Puig, Joseph Paintsel are players that totally change your margin for error, right? If you have a blunder or a mistake, Ricky and Paintsel are the guys that get you right back in the game with a moment of brilliance. And we just don't have enough of those impact spark players where you can afford to have those small mistakes. Even if it's not necessarily all his fault, he's still a part of it. And I think this is kind of where Mila was going with the Garces thing. Like in these moments right now, like you almost just want to play it safe. Like that's how I feel, is like I almost just want to be most comfortable with the idea of like who's not going to make an error here. I think he'll go back to him, and I think that's kind of just the game plan. Is we were talking about, like if we went out of that competition, I think we'd be having a stronger discussion here. But I think he just goes right back to him, and we just see how it plays out. This is the perfect game for him to get back into. Portland are terrible. Like they're genuinely bad. Like Nashville beat them 2-0. They missed 2 penalties. They missed 2 penalties and they beat them 2-0. They had I'm looking at the stats here. They had 24 shots. And Portland had 9. So they're a bad side. So long as you just take care of business, it should be an easy result. I hope for us and for him, it just goes well.
Yeah, I think we just can't afford to make any silly mistakes because, like you said, I'm looking at the stats now too. They don't create big chances. They might have shots, but they're not big chances. The only issue I could see is us giving them big chances and basically giving them something from nothing. If we control the ball like we've been doing, this should be an easy game for us.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just so nervous with him in net, but like I know we're gonna go back to him. We were talking about Mitrovic and how Dari was saying in our last episode, like what has he proven to be a ball playing keeper? And I'm kind of at the point where I agree with him. Like, why are we changing our style of play between him and McCarthy? He's a great he can stop shots and he's good with his feet, which is a plus, but let's not totally change everything we're doing because we think he's something. Mm-hmm. If that happens to happen organically, let's do it that way. But if it's for the time being, like I was saying, with that margin of error, let's not overdo it. Let's not overkill it and put ourselves in disadvantageous positions because we think he's something.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. But to Andrew's point of Zonka, being able to play the ball out the back like that, I think that helps. When we have a Garces back there with Yoshida, he wants that extra ball playing ability because, like we've talked about, Garces isn't the best when it comes to distribution and just ball retention.
It's fair. Well, hopefully Yamane being back helps with that too.
Yeah. Definitely should. One thing I'll say is that I'm not sure we're changing anything because of him. I remember last season, Greg Vanney saying a couple of times that he liked McCarthy to play the ball shorter more often than he does. It felt like McCarthy, like one of his resources is just to boot it. When in doubt, boot it out.
Yeah.
And Vanney mentioned how he doesn't necessarily like that. He wants his team to hold on to the ball. So I don't think we're necessarily changing what we want to do. It seems like that's Vanney ball, this play out the back. Mm-hmm. And whoever is in that spot, whether it's McCarthy, Mikovic, Garces, he's going to stick to his idea, which is that, exactly that, play out the back. So is it maybe the most risk-averse thing? Probably not, but I don't know if it means that we're changing anything.
I think when we have Capuj in the squad, I totally agree with you. We can play out the back. He is able to grab the ball, turn, and beat a couple guys and make the play started for us. Right now, without him, I'm not as confident in the players that we have to do that. From what you guys have said, though, it seems like Parente is starting to be able to show some of that. So maybe that's where the idea is to just stick with our principles, mold our guys into what we want to see rather than molding the play style to what we have.
Yeah, weirdly enough, Parente could be the key that unlocks all the doors, which wouldn't have been my guess looking at preseason and then looking at now, but it might be the true answer. Okay, let's do a preferred. I have no idea what a predicted 11 is, but what would be our preferred 11 for this game against Portland?
You know the first question we have to ask.
The goalie?
4 or 5 back.
Oh, 4 or 5 back. I would prefer a 5 back. I think this is the match to do it. We talked about Yamane being back. I'd prefer 5 back. I don't know where you guys are at.
I think if we want to put Yamane back in the team and not take out Harbor Mailer, then that's kind of the only option we have.
So are we 5 back?
Yeah,
I think we are.
Yeah, I think because of that, like personally, I'm like I could go either way, 5 or 4 at the back. But you mentioning that keeping Harbor Miller in the team, to me, it feels like that's a positive. So just for Miller to keep his spot, I'm gonna go with the 5.
Alrighty, we're going with the 5 back. In net, I'll let you guys battle this one out. You have my opinion.
I want McCarthy, but I think Andrew's right. I think it's going to go back to Mikovic.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking preferred. I definitely understand. There's like 2 questions you're answering. From a football perspective, I do think that it's McCarthy. He just won us a cup. We got to respect him. He's experienced. He does things mostly right. But I think another big question that Vanny and maybe Kuntz a little bit more is considering is the business side of things. You have to we want to get some ROI on the $1 million plus we've invested on Mikovic, and the only way to do that is to let him actually develop, and the only way to let a goalkeeper develop is to have him play. So if you want the best like straight footballing answer, what's going to probably get you the most points right now, yeah, McCarthy. But if you want to develop a player, see some ROI, then maybe it's Mikovic. But for the sake of this, for this 11, to keep it a little bit short, I'm going to go McCarthy on this. I do agree that he's probably the better keeper right now. But again, as a person who's played goalie, I want to see players develop. So, yeah, but I'm going to say McCarthy for preferred, just for this experience.
I was literally going to go with whatever you guys picked because like I said, I don't care. But McCarthy's great. That makes me feel a lot better. So we have Sketch and net, which is good. The 3 center backs are the 3 center backs. I don't know if there's a lot of discussion there. Or is it?
Mm-hmm.
Because we want Yamane in. Yeah. So it's Yoshida.
Yeah, Yoshida's got to be there.
And he's your central center back because he can't move enough to do either of the other 2.
This is the part that scares me. Is like, who are you playing at the
left center back? Who's your left center back? I think they go Garces. I think I go Garces.
I know. He's just so bad with his feet sometimes, and then
I don't think
him on his weak foot. It's scaring me.
I think I want him there because I just don't think we're gonna. Because his outlet at left back is. I'm gonna have Aude there. That's who I think should start after his minutes, right? Mm-hmm. So you're essentially handcuffing him to a much better ball playing player. That's like true. It's not like we're tying him with Nelson. Not to discredit Nelson, but Aude's better with his feet. That's who I would go with. I totally understand the Zonka here too, and maybe he's better equipped for it. He played on turf in Europe, and he's actually maybe there's even the case to be made that Yoshida gets a night off.
He's just the captain though, so
yeah, he doesn't want a night off. He doesn't want a night off. So those 2 are right center back. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't want to like complicate that thing a little bit more, but I also think if maybe John Nelson there rather than Garces.
That's
what you mentioned about Nelson being not as good on his feet. He's maybe not as technical. I don't even want to say that. Maybe not as like flashy, as progressive, but he's reliable, I feel. So if we're talking about, preventing mistakes, I think John Nelson might be a good option there. And if you have Aude, providing that width, that dynamism, you want a little bit more of that, maybe a little bit more recovery. But at the end of the day, I do think you want Garces somewhere in that back line. That recovery is just too important, I think, to pass up. And, to just chase things down, I think you want him to just, sweep things up, clean it up. Maybe you swap Maya and Garces. Garces on that right side, just who's playing a little bit more on a stronger foot, whereas Maya, I feel like there's a little bit more flexibility there. But yeah, that's really just that one point. I feel like Nelson might be a little bit more reliable, but I would stick with that Maya, Maya, Garces, and Miller on the right side.
Yeah, I'm totally with Miller being like your right wing back. You know, holding the width, playing out there, doing more of the things that he's naturally gifted to do. Thought we saw that way more with Herediano, with him overlapping with Peck. And then Yamane is we'll just for the placeholder of things, we'll put him as our right center back.
Yeah, and
Even though he could play the left too.
Yeah, he could, but I think to the point that Aude is going to be going up a lot, maybe Garces is the better option there, just to
sweep up.
Yeah, anything. If Aude is too far up the pitch and they play a long ball trying to expose that space, Garces is able to cut it out. So
he also did get rested midweek, so that kind of plays into it too.
Yeah.
Okay, so our 5 back is going to be Aude in no particular thing outside of Yoshida being in the middle. It's Garces, Yoshida, Yamane, right wing back Miller. The midfield 2, I think, actually might be the only thing that I'm like, okay, we know what's going here. Yeah, it's Cerrillo and Parente, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any arguments against it not being those 2. Wow,
that's what we've seen work the best so far.
Mm-hmm.
Why break those 2 up?
Yeah, I wouldn't touch it. Not with the 10-foot pole. Right winger. So I think it's Gabriel Peck. He might lose his spot. Who knows? He's so fucking good, dude. What a talent. He's so gone after this season. He's so gone.
Yeah.
We'll have more conversations about that. Yeah,
that was a little bit. I thought that was a real possibility.
There is I had this weird concern that it could be like an Atlanta situation where like in the summer we just get ripped apart just based off finances and business, and then we're like trying to scramble to put a team together at the very end of the season. I really don't want to see that, but there's the potential for it.
Definitely possible.
Definitely.
That took a sour note. Never mind. Peck's a right winger.
Let's not think about that.
I think the next 2 are kind of question marks, just because we've gone with.
I don't even know what I want
there. They're both kind of like both players are good, bad. Like who goes where at this point?
Oh, dude.
I feel like striker is just between 2 players, so let's go with that. It's either Ramirez. Oh well, Nascimento I don't think starts. It's Ramirez or Barry. I'm going Barry. I fucking love Barry.
If you ask me, it's
we're benching Royce though. After he just got rested, I know we said it's a possibility, but there's a reason he was rested. So,
well, Barry's starting at striker. I don't think Royce would have started there.
No, I agree, but I'm just trying to think
of the left
wing. Yeah,
are we cool with Barry starting there at striker?
I think I'm not the biggest fan of Barry, but he's been our better option this season. I'm not a fool, so.
Also a grafter, I feel really, really hard worker. I feel like the most example it was that goal he created for Peck in Vancouver, but even in that game against Herediano, he earned that start, and again, he's just making things happen, making defenders think, just opening things up to that play. I feel like he's important part of that system. He's just quicker, I feel, than Ramirez, and that's something that Danny specifically mentioned. I think it was after the St. Louis game. He had some not necessarily harsh words, but some criticism of Ramirez, that he's not necessarily getting to the spot quick enough. He's not recognizing things. He thinks he's improving. We obviously saw him get that goal, but I think Barry is just more suited for how the Galaxy play right now. So San Barry for me all day. And just to touch a little bit on Royce not playing, he didn't play in Vancouver because the turf could mess up his knee. He does have that continuous knee issue, so maybe let him play the last 20-30 minutes, get some movement back in his legs, and maybe we see him again more in Minnesota. But I mean, rest for Royce, I don't think it's a bad thing. Let him get up. It's a long season, and so I'm not too mad about him missing some games. So start Barry, let Royce rest, and I think what's a little bit interesting, I felt like maybe the clear answer would be Diego Fagundes as that left wing role. But I wouldn't be against seeing Lepli play up there again. I thought he really helped us put some things together as well. So I would go with either of those and maybe be a little bit more excited for Lepli just because, let the youth play, let players develop. But I could go either way there.
Yeah, I want to see Lepli play, and kind of to further back the point, like we were talking about him, Fagundes being more of the super sub, and him still being older and the amount of experience that he has on his legs. I'll say it in a nicer way. He's played full 90s in 4 out of the 5 matches that we've played. It's a lot of minutes on a guy that, yes, we've expected a lot from him, but that's a lot of minutes. It's games in turf. That's games in Costa Rica, and then back here. Like, I think for the sake of trying to get him back into a little bit of form and seeing him go up against some more tired legs, I think there's the potential that he just is going to go with Lepli, and then Fagundes comes on maybe in that position, and then maybe Royce, if you're looking for goals, can come on for a Parente or a Cerrillo, and you can really go balls to the wall forward, right? But if you're in a position where you start with a Lepli and Barry, and these guys just take you over the line, right, and they get you 2-3 goals to the good, then you don't have to play Royce. And like you're saying, I mean, it's the difference of giving him an entire another week off so that we won't see him from from Saturday to 2 weeks Saturday. Like, that's a long time for a guy with those minutes. And you could say the same for Fagundes. Like, I'm okay with relying on young legs in that case.
Do we
That's a great point.
think could we see any possible way that instead of this 5-2-3 that we're putting out, that it's actually a 5-3-2?
And you start Ramirez
Not necessarily.
or Peck's the second striker.
Whereas Lepli just drops into that 10 role more so. Peck and either Ramirez or Barry.
It is
We
possible.
do. The only thing that bothers me about this lineup is how attacking the defense is. Yamane as a wide center back with these 2 wing backs that want to bomb down the wings. That seems to be the part that I'm reserved about.
Would you feel a little better if we swapped? I was kind of thinking of it originally, but if we swapped Miller and Yamane, have Yamane in that center back role, and then Miller kind of going up. I feel like Yamane might be the better defender of the two. Miller's
I
got
think
more of the legs.
Yeah, I think Dylan and I originally had Yamane at the right center back,
Mhm.
and more so just stepping in with the ball at his feet. Yeah, I just think I guess it could work. Transition scares me in that sense though, but that might just be like we might just have to bite the bullet on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. The ball's going to run on turf, so you're super valid in thinking that like a counter-attacking play in that sense could be really bad, right? Like, I don't think you can approach it the way we've approached it, and that's why I kind of want to see the 5 back. But and I know what you have. Maybe the easy fix to kind of counter what you're talking about is to just put Yamane at right wing back and then put Zonka in.
Yeah.
Right? And I could totally see that. And then Lepli, Roy. You could actually, I think if you played that, you probably could see Royce actually start in that sense. Because you'll be so defensively sound between the 3 center backs and Yamane that between Aude and Royce and whoever that other left winger is, you'll have enough output to do enough. I don't know. It's confusing because, like I said, we had 3-0 smacking, 4-1 win with the youth. How much do you change that up? Yeah, how much do you change it up? I'm the same kind of thought process. Like, if it's good, let's let it keep being good. Let's until somebody makes us rethink our thought process, let's not fix anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap it up, who would you put at left wing? Or is like the third center mid between it's Fagundes, Royce, or Lepli, I think is where we were at.
Yeah, I think the star we're talking preferred. I'd prefer Lepley just because same things we've talked about. The development, he looked really good. You want to reward those good performances, especially as someone who might not get as many minutes once we start getting some other players back. So, let him play now that we can. So for me, Lepley.
I'm cool with Lovely too.
I think it's got to be some young legs over there.
Yeah. Okay. I'll say it out and then we'll do star player prediction. Get out of here. Mikovic and net, back three of Garces, Yoshida, Yamane. Right wing back Miller, left wing back Aude. Midfield two of Parente and Cerrillo. Right winger Peck, left winger Lepley, striker Barry.
I
Cool.
thought we said McCarthy though.
Did we? Sorry. I'm mixing myself up. McCarthy in that.
Bro, who do you want?
I don't know. I want to win games is what I want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We'll play both of them.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too.
We'll
Two
drop the
goalies.
striker. We're not scoring anyways. Let's just play.
Play for the 0-0 draw. Okay. Mila, star player and prediction.
I want Parente to keep going. I want him to boss the midfield, win tackles. I'm hoping he can just be that presence, especially if we have him playing in a midfield two in a 5-back. I think he's going to be super important. So I want to go Parente. What were the other two?
Prediction.
Oh, go 2-0. Galaxy.
Nice. Andrew, you're next.
Yeah, star player. Just because I think we'll really benefit from having him back. Like I've missed him. He's a player that I think is always a positive. I'm gonna say Mickey Amane as my star player. He just adds so much to the attack. And who knows, maybe Vanny does go for it. And as Miller as sort of his right back and has Yamane kind of doing those attacking things that he said he wanted to try out. So I'd love to see that. If we get to see that, I think Yamane is going to excel. He's gonna, get an assist, make some things happen. So he's my star player. Yeah, love him. In terms of prediction, I was thinking the same as Mila, 2-0. I feel like maybe we get our first clean sheet today. I think we start wiping away those errors. Again, St. Louis, I felt like was a similarly maybe bad team as Portland. Maybe not as much, but they didn't do too much to threaten us that we didn't give them ourselves. So I think we clean up those mistakes. We don't give away goals, and we keep it tidy at the back.
Cool. Let's see. My star player is the Lord and Savior Barry.
I knew you were going to say that.
You knew I was going to say him. I've been waiting to say him. I didn't get to do it last week, so I'm going with him this week. Or maybe I did get to do him last week. He's my star player. I don't care. He's the best, and he scores goals. And against a team that gives up goals for fun, I think that he'll have a good day. And I think he gets on the score sheet. If I really had to pick one, it'd be Peck, because in their last two games, I've seen their right wingers just absolutely cook their defense. So he could probably have a big game, but I'll go with Barry because it's more fun. As for a prediction, like I said, these guys give up goals for fun. I haven't seen us do enough to keep clean sheets yet, so I'm going to say 3-1, but I think it's like wire to wire like it was this week, this midweek, and we just smack them up. The subs come on. It's another, center back sub, and they score off like a set piece or something dumb. But yeah, 3-1.
Nice. To your point about Peck, I don't think we're gonna see him really cook until Painsel's back.
But he's been cooking. He's just not had the help.
But no, of course. But once he gets a little focus off of him, and we have that threat on the other side too, then Peck is gonna be unstoppable.
Sure. I mean, Andrew, you were at Vanny's availability after the game.
Yeah.
Did anybody bring up Painsil and where he's at?
It should still be a couple of weeks. We're, I think, getting close to that 2 to 3 week mark. But no one asked.
Nobody asked.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a month, maybe a week ago. So I'd say 2 to 3 weeks. But what I feel like Vanny's take on injuries is always never rush a player back. Let them fully get healthy, fully recover. He's not one to rush anything. So I don't know. It's not on my mind too much. When he's back, it'll feel like a lovely surprise, but it'll still take some time.
It'll
That
feel like a new
first-
signing.
That first single is
Yes,
gonna hit like
definitely.
crack. I hope he's definitely gonna drop a new single for the return.
It'll be something sappy and emotional, and I'll eat it up. More paint, please, on my Spotify. Dude,
Can't wait for that album.
it's gonna be lit. Alrighty, we good to get out of here?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, good stuff, guys. Thanks a lot.
Clash of Cosmos. Andrew's stuff will be in the description of the video. But yeah, episode 4 in the bag. From myself, Andrew, and Mila. We will see you guys in the next one.
LA are the champions. They're going to go alone. Still back. What a goal. It's 6. They just cannot stop scoring. The volley from Bono. Yes. San Jose carved open with a world-class pass from Ricky Pooch. Glittering Galaxy, and Landon Donovan is the match winner.